Hello everyone, this is George from Excel Unusual. Welcome to our group and welcome to our first training. In this first training we will be talking about how to generate simple wireframe objects, wireframe shapes in Excel using 2D scatter charts, and how to also animate them using macros. Like any of our tutorials, we will start from ground up, which means start with an empty workbook and build from there. And again, we try to keep our training short, within an hour. Each session will be probably around an hour, and we'll start in the old Excel. So 2097 to 2003, actually I will be using 2003, which is practically identical to anything down to 97. And the second part will be done in 2016 and will pertain to any version from 2007 to 2019, the last version. I would advise that you watch both parts of the tutorials. And like I said, everything will be from ground up, and for people who want even more, I will have extremely detailed courses later. I'm working now trying to finish some courses to so that people can find out more. So this being said, welcome to the group, welcome to the training, and let's start. So let's open a new workbook and make sure view, zoom, 100%. I like to start with 100%. And we will create a chart here, okay? So chart wizard, I like to select an XY scatter chart with broken, lines, and then finish, put it here. In this area, let's say starting from 35 down a little bit, center everything, align center, and let's create the square here. Let's call this square, okay? X and Y. These are the coordinates. So X. Now delete this legend. Source data, series, remove, I don't know what, remove all this stuff, okay? Add one series called square. So type square here in the name. In the X value, let's select the first 5 cells under the X here. And in the Y values section here, we select another 5 under Y, okay? Y5 because a square has 4 vertices, but you need to use 5 because you come back to the starting vertex. So good. And delete this. Okay, I don't like titles, but you can use titles if you need them. Okay. Set your cursor on the Y-axis, format axis, scale. Since it's a new project, I like to start on a wide and square area, so -10 to 10. And the major unit 2 and minor unit 2, okay? And here, set your cursor on the X-axis, right-click, format axis, -10 to 10. And major unit 2, minor unit 2, okay. Chart options, okay. Grid lines, major grid lines, minor grid lines, no minor grid lines, okay. Set your cursor on any of the grid lines, double click, and patterns, use dashed. The same here, double click, use dashed. Double click the display area here and plot area and use a happy color like like greenish, and make sure maybe like this. Now it's probably square, everything is square. And let's start here in this point, okay, in this point right here. So we say 2 2, okay, you see a point appeared. Let's go here now. So what is this? Minus 2 2, okay, minus 2. So the x is minus 2, the y is plus 2 2. Okay, so let's double click on this, make this line thick, select, make sure we select not automatic, select the color that we like. Same here, select the color, make a round, I like round markers, and 5, and then continue. We go where? Minus 2, x minus 2, minus 2, minus 2, minus 2, okay? Then where we go? Here, so plus 2, minus 2, 2, minus 2, and then we go back here to 2 2, okay? 2 2. So we have a square, okay? Reduce this a little bit, and copy this table head, okay? Control C, copy it here, Control V. I like to put some borders here, and instead of square, let's call this scaled rectangle. Scaled rectangle, and align it left. Okay. Now I want to talk about something that most of people know already, but just in case, it's called absolute and relative referencing. So let's create a simple table, 3 by 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, okay, center, and another table here, 1, 1, 1, and just copy this, okay, so 3 by 3, 1. So let's see, this is equal to this guy times, okay, star this guy, I'm sorry, this, and then we can fill this table by going in each cell and simply typing the formula. But this is very time consuming. What if you have a 100 by 100 table or something? It's take you forever. So what you do is you grab this, you see, you highlight the cell, click on it, and there's a little square handle, you drag it here. So what happens here? You multiplied this with this, this with this, this with this. What if you want to multiply all of these when you copy them, but only with this? Then you go here, in front of, oh, you type a $. This is called referencing with respect to columns. So right now, when you copy, you always stay on this column, okay? So if we copy down, you see what happens? You multiply all of these, but always with this column. Why always with this column? Because there's a $sign in front of O, okay? So it's like during the copy operation, you nail down column O. Okay, let's delete the rest, leave just the first one, and put a $sign now in front of 11, okay? $sign. So what happens now? You copy, it's fine, you know. You copy, you multiply 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by 1 here, and then if you copy down, you see, you nail down the 11, the row number, okay? Or you can also do $sign here in front of O, so you nail down the column and the row, okay? And what happens if you copy this? you always reference this cell, okay? So you can have four possibilities. You don't use any $sign, and then when you copy, you always multiply 1 by 4, 1 by 7, 1 by 5, 1 by 8, so on and so forth. So let's do it again. So if I remove the $signs, okay, and copy this, see what you get. Every time you move and you do another copy, it will move down both of these factors of the multiplication, okay? And another thing, let me show you something. When you click here, okay, you want to relative or absolute reference 011, you can hit F4 on the keyboard. 1, if you hit it once, you get absolute referencing of columns and rows. If you hit it twice, you get absolute referencing of the row. If you hit it 3 times, you get absolute references only of the column. And if you hit it 4 times, you get no absolute. Everything is relative reference. And you can scroll through this by hitting F4, you know, and you stop wherever you want, okay? So this is good. Let's delete this. It's just an example. No borders. They say let's label this x underscore scale and label this y underscore scale. Okay. Put here 0.5 and here 2. Okay. Center everything except this one. This one you need to, okay. So now this is equal to x of the square times x scale here, and hit F4 once, twice, because we want to absolute reference this row 34. Hit return and drag down. Okay, so we copy. So what we have in this area here is what we had here, but multiplied with 0.5. And here we can just copy, okay, and do the same thing, but let's do it from 0, okay? This is equal to this y, the y of the y coordinate of the scale rectangle is equal to the first y coordinate of the square times the y scale factor, and again F4, F4, hit return and then copy down using this handle. So what we have here in this area is the y's of the square multiplied by this square by 2, and then we go here on the chart, place the cursor here and say source data, add, say scaled rectangle, and pick up the data, the x data from here, pick up the y data from here, okay, and double click on it, and let's pick up I like this. Needs to be a little bit different, but not too different. In this case, I thick, round marker 5 is good. Okay, so here if we put 3, you see, set this to 0.7. See, x y scale 3, 9, 0.1, 0.2. All right, let's now open the VBA editor. So tools, macro, Visual Basic Editor. Okay, let's create some macro, do some automation, create some buttons. Double click on this sheet 1. We are on sheet 1, so we will write some code. Another thing, make sure you go here to Tools, Macro, Security. I set it to low because this is my file, I trust it. I don't want to have hitches, I want the macros to run easily. Okay, so security level, low. And then go here. There's something called View Toolbars, Control Toolbox. Okay, let's pick up this this one, spin button. Okay, and let's make a spin button for X. This is a label scale. Okay, center, and you see here something called design mode button. It looks like there's a pencil, there's a square, and a ruler. So we keep this. We can go in design mode when we are able to change the buttons, the colors, the properties of the button, or we can exit. You see here we exit. We can toggle between design mode and non-design mode. And then when we are out of design mode, we can use the button, but we cannot edit it. So when we are in design mode, we can edit the button but not use it, and vice versa. So now we go here to properties, right click, and we can change, you see, color. Let me see this. We can change the arrow color, you know, something like this. I like to leave them. Oops, it doesn't want to undo. So properties, we go back. I like to leave them whatever they were there. I think it's this, and then let's keep it like this. Okay, and also let's name this X. Is the name of the macro we want to use to run this button, and go from 0 to 20. Okay, you will understand what this 0 to 20 is. Depending on the model, these numbers, the minimum and maximum, might vary. It can be from, I don't know, 50 to 1,000 or something. In this case, you know, 0 to 20. And if we double click on it, it created for us a so-called sub, a little routine. Okay, and I'm going to double hit return twice and say X scale. You see this cell here, D34. Okay, so let's say D34 in square brackets is equal to X scale. Okay, over 2. So X scale, the button by hitting these two arrows can go up and down between 0 to 20. So X scale over 2 will go from 0 to 10, and D34 will be changed accordingly. Okay, let's get out of the design mode, either hitting here, okay, or hitting here, but now we already did it. So check this out. You see, I change the X scale either up, going from 0 to 10, or down. Let me see. Yeah, from 0 to 10, or from between 0 and 10. Okay. There's one more thing I like to do. I would like to make a rollover, which means if I click this up arrow, it will go to 20, the X scale, divided by 10, so to 10. So you see it goes to 10, the X scale, but then it cannot go anywhere. You know, once it goes to the maximum, it doesn't go anywhere. One thing I don't like, let's make this over 4. Okay, I will show you why. Okay, because our original triangle, I mean square, is already 2, so if we multiply by 20 divided by 2 by 10, it's going to go too far. But if we multiply it maximum by 5, which is 20 divided by 4, you see, 20 divided by this, the maximum of x scale is 20. It goes between 0 to 20. If we divide it by 4, it will go between 0 to 5, I'm sorry, to 5. So 5 times 2, we are still in the chart. Otherwise, we will go out of the chart. We won't see what we do. So you see, you can go down. It can go only to 0. We can go up. It can only go to maximum of 10. Okay, the maximum dimension. But in order to go down, you have to click the down arrow. In order to go up, you need to click the up arrow. I would like a so-called rollover feature, which means once it goes to the maximum, in our case is 20, to jump immediately to 0. Okay, so how we do this? We go in design mode, properties, add 1 to the maximum, so 21, and subtract 1 to the minimum, so minus 1. Okay, so 20 became 21, 0 became minus 1. And now we go here in the editor and say if, it's a conditional statement, if x scale is equal to 21, then x scale is equal to 0. Let's go out of the design mode and see what happens. You see, once it goes to maximum, jumps to the minimum. So the advantage of this, if you're lazy and sometimes you just want to click on one button and do changes, you don't need to click that. You can do it like this, but this rollover is nice, especially when you have angles. You go from 0 to 360, you know, you don't need to wait to go from 360 degrees to 0. You can just jump by clicking one more time on the upper arrow. Okay, and then do the same for the bottom one. So copy this, Control C, Control V here, and say if x scale is equal to -1, then x scale is equal to 20. So when you are at 0, if you click one more time, goes to -1 and automatically, instantly goes to the top, to the maximum. Okay, check this out. Get out of design mode here, and oops, we didn't exit. Okay, so you see, you go to 0, then rolls over and goes to maximum again, or the other way. Okay, so go back to design mode, copy this, Control C, Control V, also copy. Let's call this Y scale. Y scale. Properties, leave everything the same. Just here at the name, put Y scale. Okay. And here, copy this, Control C and Control V on the bottom. Instead of X, we put Y everywhere. Y. Change the name from X scale to Y scale. Oops, put the Y. And we want to exert a change in cell, instead of D34, E34. Okay, so E34. So now if we get out of the design mode here, you see, exit design mode, there's an error. I forgot to change, okay, the name here to Y scale. Y scale. Okay, so you see, it has a rollover feature, and this one I like to go back in design mode, so tool, macro, Visual Basic Editor, and do this. Okay. Let's get out of the design mode, exit the design mode, and see what happens. You see? So it's nicer now because it's right, left, spin button, and here up and down, spin button, Create a small animation, so a different type of macro. Just copy this, Control C, Control V, delete this, and remove the private. The private makes the macro not visible from the spreadsheet when we assign it to a button. So since we won't use this button, okay, let's remove change. Okay, that change pertains to using this kind of spin button. We can use any other button. You can use a picture. You can use, let's say, a smiley face, okay? And let's fill it with yellow, something like this, and say assign macro. Let me see. If we assign macro, let's do something here, the same name. It's not a good idea to use the same name. Let's call animate scaling. Okay, so if we assign macro, we can click on animate scaling. I want to show you something. If we put private here, okay, and then assign macro, we cannot see anything. So that's why we need to use public, either public or use nothing. That's, how do you say, defaults to public. Okay, just say public. Check this out. So now you right click, assign macro, you can see it. I like to, maybe not a good idea, but I don't put public. It's under, is the default, okay? So animate scaling. Let's do this. Let's use a loop, okay? It's called a for loop. So for I is an index equal to 0 to 1000, step 1. This is the loop. It starts with a for, I is equal to something, some index. It counts, and then you put a step. You can put -1000, step -1, some, or if you don't put step, it's self-understood that step is equal 1. Okay, I recommend it you indicate what the step is. Usually is 1, and always the loop ends with next I. Okay. Another thing you can do is very good. It's a good idea. You can declare I as an integer, or so dim I as long. I like it long because integer is very small. If you use large number, integers are, but long goes to, like, I don't know, tens of thousands of. So dim I as long, but you don't need to use it. You can comment it out. Okay, you see, it becomes, if you put an apostrophe in front of it, it's like a comment. It doesn't matter. It's a good practice to keep it, but you don't need to. Okay, I show you it works without it. This is a quick and dirty thing. If you need proper syntax, always use declare the variable, declare the constants. Okay, so let's say you see here D34, Control C, copy it, is equal to, let's say, 5 times cos of I over 20. Okay, and then copy this, Control C, Control V. We change E. Essentially, this function sine and cosine. Okay, here put sine and cosine. once we run the loop, we will be able to change this between -1 and +1. Multiply by 5, which means between D34 will vary between -5 to +5. E34 between -5 to +5. Okay, and when cos is maximum or minimum, sign is 0, something like that. Okay, so let's start. Let's also plot this so we see how they look like. Okay, use this column, you know, finish. Also change the scale of this format axis, scale from -5 to 5. Okay, and make them red. Okay, so check this out. The sign macro, this guy, animate scanning. Okay, and hit it. Okay, it's changing. You see, things are changing here, but it's not updating the chart. In order to update the chart, you need to put something called, you just need to memorize this. It's called do events. Okay, so now every iteration of the loop, every step of the loop, it will change the chart. Okay, click, you see. You see that what the scale factors are doing here on the red, this bar chart, and you see the effect on the shape. Okay. This macro doesn't have a stop. We need to wait till the index goes to 1000, but later in the next tutorial I will show you how to make a stop or a pause button. Okay, we can also print I in cell, let's say cell index here, L24. Okay, so L24 is equal to I. Okay, now one more thing. You see these macros here? Usually it's rigorous to put value. Okay, you see it also gives us a suggestion box. It's good to put value. Is more dot value is more correct, but it works without value everywhere. You know, value, 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 value. Okay, so the same thing. You know, while it's running, you see. Well, not really, but it's printing the index right here. You see. Let me make it red and bold and big. Ooh. See, started it again. Usually you can hit escape, it gets out of the macro, stops macro, but in this case I put the do events, so it's very hard. You need to keep pressing escape. Okay, you can stop the macro from here. Okay, you see, start the macro. If you can start the macro from the editor if you set the cursor inside the macro and then click this run button. Okay, or you can stop it. This is for testing macros. Okay, so right click and make this round, or you can just double click on it and say properties, don't move or size with cells. So now even if we change this to, I don't know, 100, it's not going to change the shape of this smiley face. Okay, so another thing, make sure when you run the macro, after you run the macro once, you cannot do undo. It just clears the undo queue. Okay, so we did this. We created a rectangle. You know, you can change it now. We developed 3 different simple macros to step up or down the scales, and also we created another macro here, an animation macro based on a loop, which changes the x scale and y scale using a couple of trigonometric functions, sinus and cosinus. And I will see you in the next part immediately, when we will do the same thing in Microsoft Excel 2016. Let's see how we can implement the previous tutorial in Microsoft 2016. So we go here and center it, type X and Y here in the header, and label it square. Okay, and let's start with 1, 1. Select this and go insert. Charts is probably this one. Okay, select data, and we click on this remove, add a series, call it square, and here we select 5 cells here, and here we need to delete this and select 5 cells again. Okay, and then format axis, we go from -10 to 10 and 2, 2. Okay, here format axis -10 to 10, 2, 2, and here we plug in another -1, 1, -1, right arrow 1, down arrow, -1, -1, then 1, -1, and then I'm using the arrows to navigate. You can hit return, but you still need to use arrow or the click with the mouse, and then 1, 1. Okay, let's select this and drag it a little bit down, so move it. Let's call this add borders here, and copy this, Control C, Control V, paste it. Type this, type here scaled rectangle. Okay, align it right. Here we need to, let's drag it even more down. Okay, and type here X underscore scale, and here Y underscore scale. Okay, and put some arbitrary value, 0.5 and 1.5. Here this is equal to this times the scale. So in this whole column we will scale this area, and also we will fill this range, okay, with this range, but scale, multiply with this value. So if we go here and say this green thing, okay, is equal to this value here, blue, multiplied by this red value with this scale, and of course we put a $sign in front of 30 to make this row, okay, absolute referenced. So return, then drag it down, So grab it from here, this handle, and drag it down. So we see here in this range, we have exactly the content in this range scaled by 0.5. And again, you can drag here and verify. So this y is equal to the y of the previous shape scaled by this. Scale it, drag it down, so copy, and you see now this range is equal to this range scaled by 1.5. Now we can go here. Actually, I would like to fill something light. Okay, it's okay. I don't like those. Okay. Select data, square, add series, scaled, rectangle, pick up this range. Here we need to delete. In Excel 2003 you just highlight it and it was fine. They made it complicated. Okay, so now we can change here, let's say 3, you see here 5, it changes it. Let's add some buttons. So again, you go here at File, Options, and Customize Ribbon. Make sure see, I already had a developer. You need to make sure you go here and add the developer, take it from here, put it here. I already added in my case. Okay, let's go here and hit developer. Okay, and insert a button, this one. Go here, write x underscore scale. Okay, and properties, we go from 0 to 20 and call this x scale. Okay, make it a little bit smaller. Let's copy this here, delete this, and copy, Control V, paste, call this Y scale. Okay, properties, everything is fine here, 0 to 20. Let's make the delay smaller, like 20 millisecond. Here the same, properties, the delay 20 milliseconds. Okay, and double click on this and we get the sub, you know, the routine, the little program associated with the button already started here in the editor. So we just say, you see, we have this what is this, D30, and this is E30. Okay, so D30 is equal to X scale value. Okay, so let's try if it works. We need to get out of design mode, so click on this and you see I would go back in the Visual Basic Editor and divide it by 2, because you see you exceed, if you make this 20 you will exceed the chart limits. So you see here I'm at maximum, nothing happened. or if I go down, I'm at 0, nothing happens. If I want to roll over the functionality, I need to add 1 to the maximum value and subtract 1 from the minimum value, okay? So I go back to design mode, properties, instead of 20, I go 20 plus 1, and instead of 0, I go 0 minus 1, so minus 1, okay. And do this the same thing here again, 21 and minus 1. And I go back in the editor and type if xscale value. Let's copy this, okay? Control C is greater than 20, then control xscale value is equal to 0, okay? And then copy the whole thing, control Z, control X, control C, control V again, and if xscale value is smaller than 0, then xscale value needs to jump into 20 to 20, okay? So let's see how this goes. Exit the design mode, and you see it's rolling over on the maximum value, or here is rolling over at the minimum value, okay? So now we take this whole sub, control C, control V, and replace X with Y. Everywhere we had X, we replace it with Y. Like I said, instead of xscale dot value, we can just put xscale. It's not so rigorous, but it works fine. I don't see any problem. But again, if you work for a company or something, you write professional code, large, you should use x dot value, okay? And instead of D30, we put E30, okay? Close this. Get out of design mode. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't work. So E30, okay. Let's go back in design mode, make sure properties. Oh, is missing here. So Y scale. So we need to have the same name as the macro, okay? And then get out of the design mode and check it out. It's rolling over at the upper limit, or it's rolling over at the lower limit, okay? So we have this. It's working. Now let's write a macro for animating this. Let's go to, again, Visual Basic Editor here, and just copy one of them, Control C, Control V, and type I. So let's create a loop for I is an index, is equal to 1 to, actually from 0, it doesn't matter, to 1 to 500. Step 1. How do we end this for loop? Next I. See, it recognized it because I put small n, it turned it into a capital N. So here we put, we say, you see this thing, this range here, D30 is the X scale, E30 is the Y scale, okay? So actually we can take D30 from here, Control C, Control V, and this is equal to 5. Let's put 5 times sine of I over 20. Okay, and let's do the same, Control C, with Y scale, Control V, and then E30 is equal, let's put a different number, let's say 35. Okay, so this should oscillate between +5 and -5 every, I don't know, maybe 50 runs. So how we can see this, I'm gonna show you. 0, this is equal to this plus 1. Okay, I'm gonna show you what this function does. Drag it here. Actually, this is maybe a little bit too much. Let's just drag it to 100, you know. So, and here is equal to 5 times sine of this guy over 20. Okay, and double click here, and let's plot this, see what I did there. You always run a quick scrap test on a static chart. So here, insert charts, this guy. Okay, so you see what happens here. So every 100, maybe every 120, you get a oscillation between +5 and -5. Let's change this to, say, 10. Okay, I over 10, and see what happens. You see, or I over 5. Okay, so that's what the sinus function does. And again, this is not a plain sinus. Sinus varies from -1 to +1 periodically. This is 5 times. Okay, so let's just delete this, delete the chart, and take these two numbers and plot them on a insert chart. Just pick up this. Okay, you see, format axis, we go from -5 to 5. Okay, and fill, I don't know why sometimes I like red. So let's add a button for the macro. We can run the macro clicking here. Oh, one more thing, let's type here index and have the macro type the index right here in. Okay, so K20 is equal to I, and also we need to remember the chart needs to be updated, so we need to add a statement called do events. Otherwise it's gonna run through the loop, update the numbers maybe, but it won't update the chart. And then of course we can go here and run it from here. Okay, you see, I place the cursor inside the macro and run a test run from here. Oh, that's an error here. First, you see this change is always associated with this type of buttons, but in our case this will be run, is not a spin button, so we don't need change. We just say animate whatever scale. Okay, and then we can run it from here. See, it's moving. You see the index changing here. You see the X scale and Y scale going from -5 to 5. You see them right here. Okay, and you can also close this and add insert shape. Let's choose hey, a smiley face. Okay, and I like to make it yellow, you know. Oops. What? Yellow. Okay. And assign macro. That's some problem here. Assign macro. Okay, we don't have any macro. Why? Because as you can see here, if we go to developer Visual Basic Editor, there's the word private. Okay, so we need to remove this private. Okay, and then sometimes you don't want macros to be visible from the spreadsheet, but in this case we do want. So assign macro, and you see animate scale, and let me see, assign macro, animate, okay. So now when we click on it, it starts and it moves. Okay, and we can have any kind of shape here, you know. So you can say insert online pictures, you know. Let's say a car, okay. This car, okay. Double click. Okay, so we have a car. Okay, assign macro. We can assign macro to it. We can make the car small, okay, and put it here. Delete this. Okay, and when you click on the car, we can delete this. Okay, it's running. You can even have I don't know. Let's say insert. There's some arrow somewhere. You can have anything, you know. Smart art, pictures, online pictures, shape. Say, look, I just put an arrow here. Okay, there. Assign macro. I can assign macro to it, or I can have a chart. You see this chart? I can take this chart, okay, put it here, double click on it, and there's fill, no fill, okay. I can go also to here and no fill, so that's the background. And now I can see, you see, you can overlap these charts on top of each other and see through the first chart, okay. Again, we're not going to use this, but, and at the end you can say assign macro to this guy, okay, animate scale. So when you click on this chart, you see it starts and it shows what these things are doing, okay, this X scale and Y scale. You can also, well, you need to stop it first, but okay, so stopped. You can put it here so you can see, you know, you can see what's going on. X scale and Y scale, you see. And now you can hit here. I have 3 objects that are associated with that macro, controlling that, being able to start that macro. I have this car, I have this arrow, and I have this chart. I click on any of them, the macro will start. And again, you can have various macro, you can have various controls of the macro, and various disguised buttons, beautiful buttons or transparent buttons, all kind of things, to make it look like kind of like wizardry, okay. And like I said, if you make the background and the feel of the chart transparent, you can overlap many charts on top of each other and make it look like really good, okay. So so this is it. Thank you for your attention.